How are you guys doing? Today is Friday, March 4th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review yesterday's Elite matchups and performances from Thursday, March 3rd. Taking a look at where we are today before I preview today's games, we are in the second half of both basketball seasons. In college basketball, the regular season is almost over as teams are getting into their last games of the regular season before getting into their conference tournament. In the NBA, now that the All-Star weekend is over, teams are starting to seed themselves out as the playoffs are getting ready to get underway in about a month or so. And of course, within soccer, teams are getting ready to prepare for the second half of the season as, of course, domestic titles are coming for a close, not to mention that seasons are starting to enter the last stretch of their seasons as well. Starting with college basketball, looking at the number 2 ranked team in the nation, the Arizona Wildcats would host the unranked Stanford Cardinal. Arizona ended up beating Stanford 81-69. They won by 12 after outscoring Stanford by 14 in the second half. On the winning end of this matchup, the second-ranked Arizona Wildcats would be led in scoring by their starting guard, Benedict Mathurin. Mathurin finished with 24 points and 5 rebounds in 34 minutes. He shot 8 for 14 from the field and 7 for 9 from the foul line. Their starting center, Christian Coloco, finished with 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 blocks, all in 31 minutes. He shot 7 for 10 from the field and 7 for 8 from the foul line. With this win, the second-ranked Arizona Wildcats are 27-3. They are now 17-2 in the Pac-12. That is the best record in the conference. They are currently, looks like they're going to run away with the Pac-12 record as they're the only team in the conference that has less than 5 losses so far. With this loss, the Stanford Cardinal is now 15-14. They are now 8-11 in the conference for the time being. That is the 4th worst record so far. Looking at the 6th-ranked team in the nation, the Kansas Jayhawks hosted the unranked TCU Horned Frogs yesterday. Kansas would beat TCU 72-68. They won by 4 after outscoring TCU by 4 in the second half. On the winning end of this matchup, the 6th-ranked Jayhawks were led in scoring by their starting guard, Ochai Agbaji. Agbaji finished with 22 points. He shot 8 for 19 from the field, and then he would go on to shoot a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the 6th-ranked Kansas Jayhawks are now 24-6. They are 13-4 in the Big 12. They are tied with the defending champs Baylor for the best record in the conference. With this loss, unranked TCU is now 19-10. They are now 8-9 in the Big 12. Now, looking at what's going on with the 14th-ranked team in the nation and looking at the American Conference, the Houston Cougars would end up hosting the unranked Temple Owls. Houston ended up beating Temple 84-46. They won this game by 38 points after outscoring Temple by 11 in the first half, and then, of course, by 28 in the second half, doubling what Temple scored in the second half. On the winning end of this matchup, the 14th-ranked Cougars were led in scoring by their starting forward, Fabian White Jr. He finished with 26 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 steals in 33 minutes. He shot 11 for 18 from the field and 3 for 6 from 3. With this win, the 14th-ranked Houston Cougars are now 26-4. They are now 15-2 in the American Athletic Conference. They have the best record in the conference so far. They are the only team with less than 4 losses in the conference right now. With this loss, Temple is now 16-11. They are now 9-7 in the conference for right now. Now, looking at the 20th-ranked team in the nation, the Illinois Fighting Illini would host Penn State up in the Big Ten. Illinois beat Penn State 60-55, winning this game by 6 after outscoring They won this game by 5 after outscoring Penn State by 6 in the second half. On the winning end of this matchup, the 20th-ranked Fighting Illini were led in scoring by their starting guard, DeMonte Williams. He finished with 14 points and 2 steals. He shot 4 for 11 from the field. All of his makes came from 3. He was 4 for 10 from 3. He made both of his free throws on the day. With this win, the 20th-ranked Illinois Fighting Illini are 21-8. They are 14-5 in the Big Ten. That is the second best record within their conference, as they only sit behind Wisconsin. They sit a game behind behind Wisconsin, actually. With this loss, unranked Penn State is 12-15. They are 7-12 in the Big Ten for right now, so that's where they sit. Looking at the 22nd ranked team in the nation, staying within the conference, or the 23rd ranked team in the nation, the Ohio State Buckeyes hosted the unranked Michigan State Spartans. Ohio State would end up winning this matchup 80-69. They won by 11 after outscoring Michigan State by 10 in the first half. On the winning end of this matchup, the 23rd ranked Buckeyes were led in scoring by their starting guard, Malachi Branham. He finished with 22 points and 2 steals. He shot 9 for 16 from the field and 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the 23rd ranked Ohio State Buckeyes are 19-9. They are now 12-7 in the Big Ten. They are now tied with Iowa for the fourth best record in the Big Ten. They sit behind Wisconsin, Illinois, and Purdue. With this loss, unranked Michigan State is 19-11. They are now 10-9 in the Big Ten. Last but not least, looking at the lowest ranked team to play yesterday, the 24th ranked Iowa Hawkeyes would go to Ann Arbor to face off against the unranked Michigan Wolverines. Iowa beat Michigan 82-71. They won by 11 after outscoring Michigan by 17 in the first half. On the winning end of this matchup, the 24th ranked Hawkeyes were led in scoring by their starting forward, Keegan Murray. He finished with 23 points and 7 rebounds as well as 3 blocks. He shot 7 for 9 from the field, a perfect 4 for 4 from 3, and he shot 5 for 6 from the foul line. With this win, the 24th ranked Iowa Hawkeyes are 22-8. They are now 12-7 in the Big Ten. They are now tied with Ohio State for the 4th best record in the conference. Alongside Ohio State, they sit behind Wisconsin, Illinois, and Purdue in the Big Ten. With this loss, unranked Michigan is 16-13. They are now 10-9 in the Big Ten. Now, looking at what's going on today, as today is Friday, the only ranked team that will be playing today will be at 8 o'clock on ESPNU, as 22nd ranked Murray State, who is undefeated in the Ohio Valley Conference, is going to host unranked Southeastern Missouri State in the Ford Center for what will be the Ohio Valley Conference Championship semifinal, as they're already within their bracket. Taking a look at what's going on with basketball at the professional level, starting off in Atlanta, the Hawks hosted the Chicago Bulls. The Atlanta Hawks beat the Chicago Bulls 130-124. They won by 6 after outscoring the Bulls by 13 in the second half to come from behind. They had to outscore the Bulls by 8 in the fourth quarter to overcome their 2-point deficit going in. On the losing end of this matchup, the Chicago Bulls were led in scoring by their all-star wings. Their all-star small forward, DeMar DeRozan, their 6-time all-star, would finish with 22 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, and 2 steals. He fouled out in 39 minutes. He shot 10 for 20 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard out of UCLA, Zach LaVine, finished with 22 points, and he would also finish with 7 assists and 3 rebounds in 34 minutes. He shot 8 for 14 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their starting center, Nikola Vucevic, finished with 21 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists in 36 minutes. The former All-Star shot 10 for 17 from the field. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Atlanta Hawks were led in scoring by their elite starting point guard out of Oklahoma. Trae Young finished with 39 points, 3 rebounds, and 13 assists in 38 minutes. He shot 11 for 18 from the field, 7 for 9 from 3, and a perfect 10 for 10 from the foul line. Their starting center, Clint Capella, finished with 12 points and 11 rebounds in 33 minutes. He shot a perfect 5 for 5 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Off the bench, their small forward, Bogdan Bogdanovic, finished with 20 points and 2 blocks in 31 minutes. He shot 5 for 13 from the field, 4 for 10 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. With this win, the Atlanta Hawks are now 30-32. That is currently the 10th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won 5 of their last 10 games. At the moment, they've won one less game, and they've lost one less game than the Charlotte Hornets. So on win win percentage, they sit right behind Charlotte, so they sit about even with them. But they sit one game behind the 8th place Brooklyn Nets. They sit a game and a half ahead of the 11th place Washington Wizards, who are the first team outside of the Eastern Conference play-in picture. They trail the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat by 11 full games in the conference. With this loss, the Chicago Bulls are 39-24. Win percentage-wise, that is the third best record in the Eastern Conference. They've now lost their last 3 games, which is right now they are tied with the Nets for the second longest active losing streak in the Eastern Conference. The Bulls have only lost 4 of their last 10 games. Right now, because they have one more win and one more loss than the Sixers, they sit even with them. They both sit 2.5 games behind the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat, and the Bulls also sit a game ahead of the 4th place defending champs Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference. Jumping out to Boston, the Celtics hosted the Memphis Grizzlies. Boston beat Memphis 120-107. They won by 13 after outscoring the Grizzlies by 11 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Memphis Grizzlies were led in scoring by their elite starting point guard, Ja Morant. He finished with 38 points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists in 37 minutes. He shot 13 for 29 from the field, 4 for 12 from 3, and a perfect 8 for 8 from the foul line. Their starting power forward, Jaren Jackson Jr., would go on to finish with 20 points and 7 rebounds in 36 minutes. He shot 9 for 18 from the field and 1 for 2 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Boston Celtics were led in scoring by their elite starting small forward, Jason Tatum. He finished with 37 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 6 turnovers in 38 minutes. He shot 14 for 25 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3, and 7 for 8 from the foul line. Their starting center out of Florida, Al Horford, finished with 21 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 blocks in 40 minutes. He shot 8 for 16 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and he made his only free throw on the night. Their starting point guard out of Oklahoma State, Marcus Smart, would finish with 18 points and 12 assists in 35 minutes. He shot 7 for 17 from the field and 4 for 9 from 3. Their starting center, Robert Williams III, finished with 10 points, 12 rebounds, 3 steals, and 3 blocks in 35 minutes. He shot 5 for 6 from the field. With this win, the Boston Celtics are now 38-27. That is the 5th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won their last 2 games, and they've won 8 of their last 10. They are currently sitting a game behind the 4th place defending champs Milwaukee Bucks out east. They sit a game ahead of the 6th place Cleveland Cavaliers. They trail the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat by 4.5 games at the moment. With this loss, the Memphis Grizzlies are now 43-21. At the moment, that is currently the 3rd best record in the Western Conference and the 3rd best record in the NBA. They've lost 3 of their last 10 games as they are currently sitting half a game behind the 2nd place Golden State Warriors. At the moment, they are sitting 2.5 games ahead of the 4th place Utah Jazz, and they are trailing the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns by 8 games in the conference. Jumping out to Brooklyn, the Nets hosted the Miami Heat. The Heat would be the first team in the East to clinch a winning record this year as they beat the Brooklyn Nets 113-107. They won this matchup by 6 after outscoring the Nets by a combined 13 points in the second half. Outscored the Nets by 11 in the third quarter to take the lead here. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Brooklyn Nets were led in scoring by their goated starting power forward out of Texas, Kevin Durant. He would go on to finish with 31 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists in 35 minutes. The 2-time NBA Finals MVP would go on to shoot 10 for 21 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 9 for 9 from the foul line. The Nets starting small forward, Bruce Brown, would go on to finish with 21 points and 2 steals in 33 minutes. He shot 8 for 13 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3, and 2 for 3 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Miami Heat were led in scoring by their starting center out of Kentucky, Bam Adebayo. He finished with 30 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals in 33 minutes. He shot 12 for 15 from the field and 6 for 8 from the foul line. Their guard off the bench, Tyler Hero, finished with 27 points and 8 assists in 35 minutes. He shot 8 for 19 from the field and a perfect 10 for 10 from the foul line. Their small forward off the bench, Caleb Martin, finished with 22 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 steals in 37 minutes. He shot 8 for 11 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard, Max Strus, finished with 21 points and 5 rebounds, all in 36 minutes. He shot 6 for 12 from the field, 6 for 12 from 3. All of his makes were from 3. All of his attempts were from 3. And he would go on to shoot 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Miami Heat are 42-22. That is the best record in the Eastern Conference, as they have officially clinched a winning record for themselves this year. Then to continue it off from last year, they have won 8 of their last 10 games. They now sit 2.5 games ahead of the second place Philadelphia 76ers and the third place Chicago Bulls. They sit 11 games ahead of the 10th place Atlanta Hawks, just to get a sense of how far they are in the playoff picture. And with this loss, the Brooklyn Nets are now 32-32. That is the 8th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've now lost their last 3 games. They are tied with the Chicago Bulls for the second longest active losing streak in the Eastern Conference. The Nets have now lost 7 of their last 10. They now sit 3 games behind the 7th place Toronto Raptors out east. They sit a game ahead of the 9th place Charlotte Hornets and the 10th place Atlanta Hawks as well. They trail the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat by 10 full games in the East. Jumping up north of the border to Toronto, the Raptors hosted the Detroit Pistons. From just over the border, the Detroit Pistons would beat the Raptors 108-106. They won this matchup by 2 after they outscored the Raptors by 9 in the first quarter and by 11 in the third. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Toronto Raptors would be led in scoring by their starting power forward, former NBA Most Improved Player Pascal Siakam. He finished with 28 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists in 43 minutes. He shot 10 for 15 from the field and 8 for 10 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, their rookie out of Florida State, Scotty Barnes, would finish with 21 points and 10 rebounds in 40 minutes. He shot 7 for 13 from the field and 6 for 8 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Detroit Pistons were led in scoring by their starting small forward, Jeremy Grant. He finished with 26 points in 35 minutes. He shot 8 for 14 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and 8 for 9 from the foul line. Their starting small forward out of Villanova, Sadiq Bey, finished with 23 points and 6 rebounds in 38 minutes. He shot 8 for 19 from the field and 4 for 6 from the foul line. Their rookie starting point guard, the number 1 overall pick in last year's draft, Cade Cunningham, finished with 22 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals in 38 minutes. He shot 9 for 20 from the field and 4 for 9 from 3. With this win, the Detroit Pistons are now 16-47. That is the second worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've won 4 of their last 10 games, as they are currently sitting 14.5 games behind the 10th place Atlanta Hawks in the Eastern Conference. With this loss, the Toronto Raptors are now 34-28. That is the 7th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost 5 of their last 10 games. At the moment, they sit 2 games behind the 6th place Cleveland Cavaliers out east. They sit 3 games ahead of the 8th place Brooklyn Nets, and they trail the conference leading Miami Heat by 7 games out east. Looking at what's going on in Dallas, the Mavericks hosted the Golden State Warriors. The Mavericks would beat the Warriors 122-113. They won this matchup by 9 after they outscored the Golden State Warriors by 11 in the first quarter, 14 for the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Golden State Warriors were led in scoring by their shooting guard off the bench, Jordan Poole. He finished with 23 points and 2 steals in 27 minutes. He shot 8 for 12 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. Their goated starting point guard and the reigning NBA All-Star Game MVP out of Davidson, Stephen Curry, will go on to finish with 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 9 assists in 40 minutes. He shot 8 for 15 from the field, 4 for 5 from 3, and he made his only free throw attempt of the day. Their all-star starting small forward, Andrew Wiggins, finished with 17 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals in 37 minutes. He shot 7 for 17 from the field and 2 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Dallas Maverick, or I guess also before I go on, the Warriors elite starting shooting guard Klay Thompson will go on to finish with 16 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists in 28 minutes. He shot 6 for 17 from the field, 2 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Dallas Mavericks were led in scoring by their elite starting shooting guard Luka Doncic. He would go on to finish with 41 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 steals, and 6 turnovers in 40 minutes. He shot 15 for 26 from the field, 4 for 10 from 3, and he would shoot 7 for 9 from the foul line. With this win, the Dallas Mavericks are 35-28. That is the 5th best record in the Western Conference. They've won their last 3 games, and they've won 8 of their last 10. Their 3-game winning streak is, of course, tied with the Utah Jazz for the second longest active winning streak within their conference. The Mavericks are sitting 2 games behind the 4th place Utah Jazz out west. They're sitting a game and a half ahead of the 6th place Denver Nuggets, and they are trailing the conference-leading Phoenix Suns by 12.5 games in the Western Conference right now. With this loss, the Golden State Warriors are 43-20. That is the 2nd best record in the Western Conference and the 2nd best record in the NBA still. They have lost their last 3 games, and they've lost 7 of their last 10. Their 3-game losing streak is tied with the Trailblazers and the Spurs for the 3rd longest active losing streak in the West. They are trailing the conference-leading Phoenix Suns by 7.5 games at the moment, and they sit half a game ahead of the 3rd-place Memphis Grizzlies right now out west. Jumping out to, or I guess staying within the state, but jumping south to San Antonio, the Spurs hosted the Sacramento Kings. The Kings beat the Spurs 115-112. They won this matchup by 3 after outscoring the Spurs by 13 in the first half, by 10 in the second quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown San Antonio Spurs were led in scoring by their shooting guard off the bench, Lonnie Walker IV, out of Miami. He finished with 30 points, a couple of rebounds, and a couple of assists in 30 minutes. He shot 12 for 20 from the field, 5 for 11 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the foul line. Their all-star starting point guard, DeJounte Murray, would finish with 29 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, and 5 turnovers in 35 minutes. He shot 12 for 22 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Sacramento Kings were led in scoring by their starting small forward out of North Carolina, Harrison Barnes. He finished with 27 points and 5 rebounds, as well as 5 turnovers in 39 minutes. He shot 6 for 8 from the field, 4 for 5 from 3, and 11 for 14 from the foul line. Their starting point guard, De'Aaron Fox, finished with 26 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, and 3 steals in 39 minutes. He shot 10 for 20 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and 4 for 5 from the foul line. Their starting power forward, Domantas Sabonis, finished with 12 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists. He fouled out in 28 minutes. He shot 5 for 8 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Sacramento Kings are now 24-41. That is the 3rd worst record in the Western Conference. They've won 4 of their last 10. They are currently sitting 3.5 games behind the 10th place New Orleans Pelicans, who are, as they sit right outside of the Western Conference play-in picture. And with this loss, the San Antonio Spurs are now 24-39. That is the 4th worst record in the Western Conference. They've now lost their last 3 games. They've lost 5 of their last 10. They are currently sitting 2.5 games behind the 10th place New Orleans Pelicans outside of the play-in picture out west. Last but not least, looking at the Los Angeles Derby, the LA Clippers would host the LA Lakers. The Clippers beat the Lakers 132-111 in front of all Los Angeles fans. The Clippers would win this game by 21 after they outscored the Lakers by 22 in the 3rd quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the LA Lakers were led in scoring by their goated starting small forward, LeBron James out of Akron, Ohio. He would go on to finish with 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists in 37 minutes. He shot 8 for 18 from the field, 2 for 9 from 3, and 8 for 10 from the foul line. Their goated starting point guard, Russell Westbrook out of UCLA, would finish with 17 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists in 29 minutes. He shot 7 for 16 from the field and 3 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the LA Clippers the hometown LA Clippers, I guess, for this matchup would be led in scoring by their starting point guard, Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson would finish with 36 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists, and 2 steals in 35 minutes. He shot 14 for 30 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and he shot a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the LA Clippers are now 34-31. That is the 8th best record in the Western Conference. They've now won their last 5 games, and they've won 7 of their last 10. The Clippers' 5-game winning streak at the moment is the longest active winning streak in the Western Conference, and it's the longest active winning streak in the NBA for the time being. They've won 7 of their last 10. They sit a game behind the 7th-place Minnesota Timberwolves within the Western Conference. They sit 5.5 games ahead of the 9th-place Los Angeles Lakers, and they trail the conference-leading Phoenix Suns by 17.5 games at the moment. With this loss, the Los Angeles Lakers are 27-35. That is the 9th best record in the Western Conference. They've now lost their last 4 games. That is the 2nd longest active losing streak in the Western Conference behind the Houston Rockets. They've lost 8 of their last 10 games. At the moment, they are sitting 5.5 games behind the 8th place Los Angeles Clippers in the Western Conference. They sit a game ahead of the 10th place New Orleans Pelicans just in the play-in picture, and they are sitting 23 full games behind the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns right now. That is what the NBA is looking like following yesterday's matchups. Taking a look at what's going on today as we are just moving through this season one day at a time. The first primetime game will be at 7:30 as the Chicago Bulls, who hold the 3rd best record in the East, are going to host the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks, who have the 4th best record in the East. It's going to be at 7:30 in the United Center. The Bulls, who are going to be the home team, enter this matchup having lost their last 3 games, but they've won 6 of their last 10. The Bucks have won their last 2, and they've won 6 of their last 10 as well. The second primetime game will be at 10 o'clock as the team that has the best record in the NBA and the only team with 50 wins so far, the Phoenix Suns, are going to host the New York Knicks, who hold the 4th worst record in the Eastern Conference right now. The Suns have won 8 of their last 10 games, sitting 7.5 games ahead of the 2nd best team in the league, the Golden State Warriors. The New York Knicks have lost their last 6 games, and they've lost 9 of their last 10. Their 6-game losing streak is the longest active losing streak in the Eastern Conference and the 2nd longest active losing streak in the NBA behind the Houston Rockets. And looking at the games that aren't on prime time, at 7 o'clock, the Detroit Pistons are going to host the Indiana Pacers in the Little Caesars Arena. At the same time, the Philadelphia 76ers are going to host the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Wells Fargo Center. At the same time, at 7 o'clock, the Washington Wizards are going to host the Atlanta Hawks in the Capital One Arena. At 7:30, the Toronto Raptors are going to host the Orlando Magic in a makeup game. At 8 o'clock, the New Orleans Pelicans, who are just holding on to their play-in spot by a hair, are going to host the Utah Jazz at 8. At the same time, at 8 o'clock, the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to host the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Paycom Center. At 9 o'clock, last but not least, the Denver Nuggets are going to host the Houston Rockets, who hold the worst record in the West in Ball Arena. So that is what the NBA is looking like. Taking a look at what soccer is looking like, looking at what's going on from yesterday. The only big matchup that took place was within the English FA Cup in the 5th round. Everton was able to pick up a 2-0 home win versus Boreham Wood. They were able to pick up a brace from Salomon Rondon in the second half. So with this, they're able to advance to the next round. That was the only big game from yesterday as we advance into yet another big weekend of soccer. Taking a look at what's going on today, the only big matchup within professional soccer within Europe is going to be, jumping first there's actually 2 big games. First, within La Liga, Sevilla, who is currently holding the 2nd best record in La Liga, is going to face off against Alaves. Alaves is currently holding the 2nd worst record in Spain. Sevilla sits 6 points behind first place Real Madrid, as a win here can move them a lot closer. And then, of course, in Serie A, Inter Milan, who hold the 3rd best record in Italy, is going to host Salernitana. Salernitana enters today's matchup with the worst record in Italy. Inter sits 2 points behind Napoli and Milan, as Inter have 1 less game played than both. Inter could temporarily take their spot at the very top of Italy with a win today. And then, of course, with that said, that's everything that I have for you today as we navigate through the world of sports one day at a time. I want to thank the ESPN, the NCAA, the NBA, and FIFA websites for giving me all the facts and figures that I need before I get into as I navigate into each episode day by day. I do apologize for the names that I do butcher. And with that said, once all of today's exhibitions and matchups are done, I'm going to come back tomorrow on Saturday, March 5th, for another episode of The Elite. So until then, I want to thank everyone for listening. I hope all is well, and I will catch you with another episode of this tomorrow. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you with another piece. Peace out.